Talk Time with Reid Moriarty.
You must be Richard Fefferman, the park ranger here. So, Richard, the arch is a familiar icon. What does it symbolize to you personally?
That is a good question. Well, I think it probably still symbolizes to me, because I'm into history, the same thing that it's supposed to symbolize, which is the westward history. It made St. Louis became the gateway for a lot of the people who went to the west, and the arch is sort of a symbol of our country's getting bigger, which resulted in St. Louis becoming so important.
All right. Can you tell me a funny story about tourists coming to St. Louis?
I've had people at the top, hey, where is the arch? And of course they're inside of it, and there's a curved floor, and sometimes people don't always have a chance to study ahead of time.
Does that elevator ever freak you out, Richard?
The ride to the top does not freak me out. It does freak out some people because it is cozy. It's a tight fit for 5 adults. But I have seen 5 football players go in there, and they made it.
They made it?
Yes.
That's really amazing, yes. Richard. Does every other people faint, Richard?
Not every other person, but now and then, generally when it's crowded and hot at the top, people get nervous. And actually, faint is extremely rare, but sometimes they're very scared. I've had people who weren't able to get out of the tram car because they were scared. One of my jobs, if I see someone who looks scared, to try to help them. Honestly, I find it's easier to comfort the women. They usually don't mind being talked to. Sometimes the men get a little embarrassed. So sometimes I find it's hard to help the men who freak out.
So, Rich, how long have you been a park ranger?
Well, I was hired way back in 1988, so about 27 years now.
Okay, 27 years. Always at this site? Or
yes.
Always at this site.
Time.
All right, how did you get this job?
Well, way back when I studied history when I was in college, I went to a little bit of law school. I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer, and was lucky enough to get into this because of my interest in history.
So, what's your high point of being a park ranger, Richard?
I think my favorite thing I like to do is when we have a group of school children come, to take them around the arch or the old courthouse and spend a lot of time. It's a lot of fun to me.
So when you were a kid, Richard, where did you dream of working?
Well, when I was very small, I wanted to be, I'm in my 50s, so the moon landing and all that was happening when I was about 10 years old or so. So I wanted to be like an astronaut or rocket tester or something like that.
Are you more of a history buff or a people person, Richard?
I think I'm both. I would think when I was young, I was rather shy, but I enjoy working with people. And
all right. So if you could work at any of the National Park Services besides the Arch, which one would you choose, Richard?
Well, I've had occasion the last several years to visit the Grand Canyon a couple of times, and it might be fun to work there because you could do so many different things. You could do the American Indian culture. You could do geology. There's lots of good stargazing there. Any number of things you could do. Of course, again, the inspiring nature of just looking out over the canyon is sort of like being at the top of the arch. I think it would be fun to work there, although I might be too old to hike to the bottom of the canyon anymore.
What do you admire most about Lewis and Clark, Richard?
Well, one of my favorite hobbies is astronomy, actually. I almost became an astronomer. That's another thing of mine. And to me, what they did is probably a lot like what the astronauts did about 200 years later. They are explorers, adventurers in their own way. Probably just as little was known about the West as was known about, let's say, the moon when the astronauts went there. So I kind of see a commonality.
All right. If you could live in any time period, Richard, what would you choose?
That's a very good question. My interest in history, perhaps my favorite era is the mid-1800s, around the Civil War, and it would sort of be nice to know what I know now and then come back there, and maybe I could help out in some ways, and hopefully things would turn out better.
Okay, so I see the construction out there. What do you predict will happen to St. Louis when the Sayarch River project is done?
It's a very good question. We hope that what will happen is that people will be able to walk over the nice, there's a park over the interstate highway, so it'll be easy to walk back and forth from the arch and the grounds over to here at the old courthouse into the city. If you were here before, it was almost like an island separate from the city, and now it'll be kind of connected to the city a lot better. But you have to come back in 2 years to see the finished product.
All right, that's really amazing. Hey, Richard, what's your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time? Well, I'm into history, and somehow I inherited this from my dad, but it's a historical movie from World War II called Sink the Bismarck.
I like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang besides the Jungle Book. All right, so the last question is, are you a Parks and Rec fan?
Yeah, unfortunately I've never seen it, believe it or not.
All right, Richard, it was nice talking to you.
Talk Time with Reid Moriarty.